Dear children, the story Lost Spring describes the plight of the children who have been forced to do labor instead of studying in the schools and getting themselves educated. As a result, their childhood gets stolen. In the previous lesson, we studied that there is a little boy, his name is Sahib, he's a rag picker. He has come from Dhaka, Bangladesh. His family is the family of refugees. They are squatters. They, they have a temporary house in Simapuri on the outskirts of Delhi, and there is no school in the vicinity. He comes in the morning and picks up the garbage, scrounges for something valuable, which has been metaphorically called gold by Anis Jung, the author, sells it in the market, join hands with his parents for having little more income so that they are able to have at least two square meals in a day. Let's go ahead with the story. Anis Jung sees a group of boys who are rag pickers and not wearing any shoes. So, on being asked to save themselves from the embarrassment, they point out that it is their tradition. Somebody said that the mother did not bring the shoes down from the shelf, but the truth is they never had shoes and that is why they did not wear them. Annie's Junk recalls a story that had been conveyed to her by a man from Udupi. On the map, you can see the placement of Udupi. So, this man told Annie's Junk that there was a little boy there. The situation was so awful that they did not even have proper shoes for going to school. The little boy would pray, "Oh God, please give me one pair of shoes." God finally granted his prayer. The story of the boy praying for a pair of shoes was 30 years before, and 30 years later, when Annie's junk visited the town, which had now become quite lonely. There weren't many people there. In the backyard of that town, the new priest lived, and there were new red and white plastic chairs. There was a young boy, properly dressed up in grey uniform, wearing socks, wearing shoes, breathlessly running, coming back from school. Looking at the boy, she remembered the prayer that the other boy had made to the goddess, that earlier he would say, "Oh God, give me shoes." When he got the shoes, he used to pray, "Oh God, let me never lose them." And God had actually granted his prayer because the little boys over here are able to afford the shoes. They are wearing shoes when they are going to school. Unfortunately, Annie's junk sees that the rag pickers in her neighborhood still remain shoeless, cannot afford to buy shoes. For a city dweller, born in a family where everything is given, provided on the platter, the children do not realize the worth of the things. That is why, to create sensitivity, such stories are included in the syllabus. Imagine that somebody has to actually go to the temple and pray for a pair of shoes, and then once again pray that the shoes always remain and they do not become shoeless. We have been given so many facilities and amenities, and we take them for granted, and we never imagine that the life can be without them. Rather, we keep on finding faults, we keep on cribbing for petty little issues. So, we learn that there are so many deprived children in this world. Whatever God has given us, we should be thankful to Him. When the realization of gratitude, thankfulness comes, then only we learn to become good human beings. And that is the objective of education, children. Education is not just passing the examination one after the other. It is the change in the mental, emotional, intellectual behavior so that we become useful citizens of tomorrow's nation, so that there is sensitivity for others, so that we are not so selfish and self centered that we just see ourselves. We should be able to share whatever we have got. We should be able to say thank you to God for the blessings that He has showered on us. Metaphor is implied comparison. The writers use this poetic device, metaphor, for decorating the language. So, Simapuri is on the periphery. Periphery is outskirts, edge of Delhi, yet miles away from it, metaphorically. Why miles away? Because the facilities and amenities which are prevalent in the capital are beyond the reach of the people living in Simapuri. So, physical distance is very less, but the distance of luxuries, the distance of facilities, the distance of provisions is quite far. Simapuri was a wilderness in 1971. It was a jungle. It still is a jungle, but it is not empty. There are so many houses here with roofs of tin and tarpaulin. There is no proper development, no sewage, no drainage, no running water. More than 10,000 rag pickers live here in the same manner as the early men used to live. In 1971, many people came from Bangladesh in an unlawful manner and they started living in Simapuri, which is on the outskirt of Delhi. It is not having the development that the city has, and the people are deprived. It is a wasteland where they had created their temporary homes, but since they have been living there for many, many years, so it is a kind of permanent home that they have got. Rag pickers like Sahib take birth in such houses and Since they have no exposure, no amenities, no facilities, their children never go to school. They don't equip themselves with the tool of education which can make a big difference in their lives. They are born a rag picker and they die as a rag picker only. The valuables, if by any chance are there in the garbage, are searched for, it is sorted out, and it is sold in the market, and then little food is supplied to them. They are able to have something to eat at night. It is my very favorite question in the examination that Simapuri is though on the periphery of Delhi, yet why is it miles away from it? So the answer is that the rag pickers and others who are poverty stricken had migrated from Bangladesh and they came over. But then, since it is an illegal colony, so the basic facilities and amenities are not there. Physically, it is very near to the capital of the country, but the other facilities, basic amenities are missing over there. That is why it has been termed as miles away from the capital. Anis Jung says that these rag pickers and their families have been living here in this Simapuri for more than 30 years without any identity, without any permit, but they do have ration cards, maybe Aadhaar cards by now, and they also have their names on voters list because the politicians always want to encash them. They say that we are making your ration card so that you are able to buy grain. Food is very important for them. Survival is more important than any identity. People over there say if at the end of the day we can feed our families and we can go to bed without having pain in the stomach, pain because of the hunger pangs, we would rather live here than go back in the fields in Bangladesh because those fields did not give us any grains. There is a group of women, they are all wearing ragged, tattered saris, and this is what they answer when they are asked about why they had left their beautiful land of green fields and rivers. They say, wherever we find food, we pitch our tents and we make temporary homes. Children take birth in them, they grow up in these tents, and they become partners in survival. Partner in survival means they also start earning for the livelihood so that they are able to supply little money to the family income. You must have noticed that near a beautifully developed colony there is a slum, and in that slum, very poor people live. These poor people have either migrated from some other country or maybe from the nearby states. Why do people migrate? For the simple reason of earning their livelihood because they are poverty stricken. And who suffers the most in the process? It is their children whose childhood gets stolen, who are not able to bloom, who lose the spring of their lives. Very highly ambitious plans are penned down on the paper by the government year after year, month after month, day after day, but the reality remains the same. These deprived children never ever find out the basic minimum education facility, and because they are parents and the elders in the family really push them to work. So even if there is a school nearby, they are not able to join it, they are not able to focus on the studies, and they become partner in the survival of the family, supplying little more income than is earned by the elders there. Segregating garbage in a manner that they are able to find out anything and everything which can be sold in the market, and they are able to earn a few pennies. They learn this art and the skill of segregation, sifting through, finding out. It is a fine art. It has become a fine art because their parents had been doing the same thing, the elder brothers and sisters, and now they have also joined in the business. The writer says garbage to them is gold. Gold is something valuable. Garbage is their daily bread. Garbage is a roof over their heads, even if that roof is leaking when it rains. But for a child, garbage is even more than that. Little children are able to adapt to the new problems which are faced by them, though segregating the garbage seems to be very revolting. For a city dweller, it is something that one can never imagine. But for children like Sahib, it is also a great fun. Sahib says, I sometimes find a rupee, even a 10 rupee note, while I am segregating the garbage, while I am scrounging it, while he is conveying it, his eyes become lighted, he becomes very excited. And it is the truth of life that if one is able to find a valuable thing, a silver coin in the heap of garbage, he would keep searching for more. It seems for children, garbage has a different meaning than their parents because anything wrapped creates a feeling of wonder for the child. So, garbage segregation together is also a kind of fun for the children, though for the elders it is a means of survival. One winter morning, Annie's junk sees little boy, the rag picker Sahib, standing by the fenced gate of the neighborhood club. He is watching two young men dressed in white who are playing tennis. He softly speaks, conveys, I like the game, but he is satisfied just watching it, standing behind the fence, on this side of the fence. He says, I go inside when there is nobody there. The gatekeeper lets me use the swing. There are children in this world whose parents pay extra pounds for making them get the training of lawn tennis, of anything that they want in the world. And there are children like Sahib who are so deprived that just watching others playing tennis gives them the feeling of content, satisfaction. Using the swings when there is nobody else also gives them the thrill, the pleasure, though it is the natural right of every child to have fun, to be able to enjoy life. But there are many, many children in this world who never feel that thrill because of the poverty stricken conditions, because the spring of their life gets lost. Sahib, a rag picker, wearing dirty white shirt and shorts and also wearing tennis shoes. Tennis shoes look very strange. When I look at him questioningly, he, in a manner of explanation, says, "Someone gave them to me." The truth is that these tennis shoes are the discarded shoes of a rich boy who perhaps refused to wear them because one of them had a hole in it. But even that hole does not bother a boy like Sahib who has walked barefoot. Even shoes with a hole is a dream that has got converted into reality. Sadly, the game tennis that he is watching so intently, so carefully, he will never ever be able to afford it. It shall always remain out of his reach. Suddenly, I notice that Sahib's life has got changed. I see him on his way to the milk booth. In his hand, he is holding a steel container, canister. He tells me, "I have started working in a tea stall down the road. They pay me rupees 800 per month. They also give me all meals." I ask him, "Do you like your job?" Because I can realize that his face has got lost the carefree look that it used to have even when he was scrounging the garbage, because he was with his friends at that time. He was the master of whatever, wherever he was trying to do. It seems that the steel canister is much heavier than the plastic bag which he would carry over his shoulder for the garbage, because at that time he was nobody's slave. The bag belonged to him, but the canister, the container for the milk, belongs to the man who's the owner of the tea shop. Though the work that he was doing earlier was also problematic, it was collecting garbage from door to door and then segregating it. But now the problem has multiplied. At least he could do whatever he wanted to do on his own. At least he had his friends to share his joys. Now he is alone. Now he has the burden of serving someone because the person is giving him meals. So he has the responsibility of obedience. He cannot say no for anything. It is the sad reality for children like Sahib that as they grow up, they no longer remain their own master. They become somebody's slave, and the education that was their birthright has already not been given to them. Now there is no exposure. Now there is no freedom. Life shall remain like this only. When they grow up, they would not be able to provide education to their next generation because there has not been any orientation. It is hardly one or two people from the whole lot who are able to break through the chain of slavery. Year after year, month after month, they have to abide and obey whatever their masters tell them to do. They are the ones who have lost the spring of their lives. Their childhood has gone. It has got faded, wilted,